Today, I want to talk a little bit about equalization or EQ. And I want to do that by looking at a real-time parametric EQ plugin. I'll explain what that means here in just a minute. But first, look at the screen that I've got open here. Let's take a look at this together. You can see that I've got Audacity running. By the way, I'm in version 3.7.4, which as of right now today is the latest and greatest version. I want to record a little bit of audio in here so that we can use it for some training purposes. So let's go to our audio setup button, and let me make sure that my playback device is set to my Rodecaster Duo Chat. It is. That's so that I can hear it and so that you can hear it. And then our recording device is set to my Rodecaster Duo Main Stereo, but we're only recording in mono, so don't let that throw you. Next, I'm going to come up to my monitor. I'm going to enable silent monitoring. You can see I've got a pretty good level there. It's peaking out about a -12. That'll work for the purposes of what we are doing. Oh, by the way, my name is Mike, and thank you for joining me at Audacity Training with Mike. Yes, I am that Mike. So let's go back to our screen here. And now that I've got my audio set up, I'm going to go ahead and press the record button here. And let's lay down some audio just so we have something to play with. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to apply equalization to. And it's not going to be a long recording. In fact, I think I'm going to stop right here. So there's our recording. I'm going to rewind to the beginning. I'm going to select the entire thing. Now, if we come up to the Effect drop-down menu, let's look first of all, and we're just going to spend a couple minutes here. Let's look at the filter curve EQ. We're all pretty much familiar with the filter curve EQ. I'm going to go ahead and flatten this out. But the EQ that I'm going to show you, which is real time, which is free, which you can go get, I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. It's similar to this in that it looks similar. It's not similar in functionality at all, but it's similar in the way that it looks. And you'll remember that on the filter curve EQ, here at the bottom, we have frequencies from 20 hertz up to above 20,000 hertz. That's been defined years ago by people a lot smarter than me as the range of human hearing. So everything's kind of based on that. And maybe we can talk about that a little bit more in the future. And then on the left here, we have decibel level. This means that 0 dB means that I'm not doing anything to the audio. I'm not doing anything to any of these frequencies. I'm not attenuating them or bringing them low, and I'm not amplifying them or boosting them by bringing them higher. The audio that's coming in is the audio that's going out. So this is what we're mostly familiar with, but this is destructive. When I edit this way with the filter curve EQ, which has a lot of limitations, it's destructive. I am doing destructive things to my audio waveform. I would rather go real-time plugins, which is what we're going to do, so that I don't destroy that original waveform. Real-time plugins only are applied to the waveform when you export the audio, and the waveform that's in your project stays untouched. I like that. I like that a lot. So I'm going to cancel out of here, and instead, let's come up here to this Get Effects button. And when we press Get Effects, this brings up a lot of different effects that we can go get. There's a bunch of them in here. But what I want to concentrate on for the sake of this video is in the mastering and mixing category. So if we click on that, we see here that there's a parametric 10-band EQ called Shape It. And before I downloaded this, I haven't really played with Shape It much, but it seems to be pretty good. It's free. It's a lot better than the filter curve EQ, in my opinion, because you can see what it's doing before it does it. So if you want to get this, click on this button right here, get it on MuseHub, and you can go get it and install it. And once it's installed, let me show you how to get to it. Mine's already installed, so I'm just going to press OK to get out of there. I've still got the audio highlighted, or the waveform highlighted. So let's come up here to the Effects button, and this will open up the RealTime Effects window. And so if we add an effect, that EQ, the soundly shaped EQ, will be in two locations. It shows up as an audio unit effect, and it shows up as a I can talk today. It shows up also as a VST3. Those are just different, it's the same effect, but different electronics, I guess you could say, behind it. That's not the right word. What's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Different programming behind it. It's built a different way. And VST3 tends to be a little bit easier on your CPU. So let's go VST3. I'm having a hard time talking today. And let's open up Soundly Shape It. And this is what we get. I'm going to enlarge this a little bit so that we can see it better. So let me grab this, and then let me grab this. And let's make it a little bit bigger so that we can see it a little bit better. And again, this is a lot like the filter curve EQ in its presentation. That's where the likeness stops. There's nothing like, this isn't anything like the filter curve EQ in functionality. It's only like it in the way that it presents itself. Again, here at the bottom, we have frequencies from 20 hertz to above 20,000 hertz. And on the left side, we have decibel levels. This is the 0 point right here, or again, we're not doing anything to the audio. What's coming in is what's going out. We have the ability to attenuate audio, and we have the ability to amplify audio in terms of specific frequencies. So let me come up here to our audio. I'm going to loop this audio, and you can see it put little brackets here. Let me lower this down. It put little brackets here on our audio. I've got the entire waveform selected. Looping it like that will just enable it to loop through. It'll just keep playing until I stop it, so I don't have to keep restarting it while I'm showing you things. So I'm going to press play on that audio, and what you'll see here is a real-time graphic representation of the frequencies. They're going to bounce around. You're going to see my voice on this screen, and that's a real advantage over that filter curve EQ. So let me press play here, and let's watch it. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to apply equalization to. And it's not going to be a long recording. In fact, I think I'm going to stop right here. So this is some audio okay, so this is a good representation of my voice. You can see that at about 120 hertz, 140 hertz, I've got some peaks going on. That would be right here in the waveform. And again, dying down here at the upper end, the Shure SM7B is a very dark microphone, and so it doesn't really promote the high frequencies very much, which is good. That really matches my voice, which is why I bought it, because it matches my voice. So we can also see here that down at the low end, from about 50 to 60 hertz, we got a lot of bass tones down there. And that's really useless audio to us in voice recording, in podcasting and audiobooks. This is something we don't want a lot of. We want to get rid of these lower tones down here because there's no good information in there. There's no really good, useful audio in there. We want to get rid of it. You'll see things here like furnaces running, fans running, things like that. Lower frequency things, bass reflections in your room even will tend to get in here. And you can see that we've got quite a bit of that going on. But we can get rid of that through equalization. We can put on this what's called a high-pass filter, which essentially cuts off low frequencies at a frequency that we specify and allows other frequencies above that to just pass. It's called a high-pass filter. And, some people come to me with their audio and they say, I need to equalize this. I need to put some equalization on it. And I listen to the audio and it sounds pristine. It sounds really good. And I'm thinking, why do you want to EQ it? Why do you think you need to EQ it? Because it sounds so good just like it is. And a lot of the times I think we get influenced by people that we see in other videos or whatever that are saying you have to EQ, you have to do this, you have to have high-pass filter, you have to have low-pass filter, you have to produce your audio this way. And maybe you do, but when it comes to equalization, maybe you don't. If it sounds good to you It comes down to, doesn't it, a matter of personal opinion, at least it does to me a lot, with one exception. The one exception that I always recommend that you do is put a high-pass filter on your audio. At the very minimum, put a high-pass filter on your audio because that gets rid of those low end or those bassy tones down there. So we can do this in Shapely, which is pretty cool. Again, I've never really used this before, and this is a first for me as well. We can go to presets and settings here, or we can come over here, which is kind of where I prefer to go. I don't know why, I just do. And we have a bunch of presets in here. And if we come down to, where is it? Cleanup, remove lows. This is a high pass filter. So if we click on this, you can see what it just did. It put a high pass filter on my audio. In other words, everything from this point right here is going to start to be attenuated down to, infinity down here really, which is kind of where it's going. Now, if I click once on this, I can see that I have a low cut filter installed, which is what I just put on it. And that my low cut filter is really starting to cut at 80 Hertz, which is good. That's what I want. And it's doing it at a 24 dB per octave, which is good. Again, that's what I want. If I click this down arrow, I can make it steeper if that's what I want to do. And let's leave it at 24 though. And let's look now at the waveform as I play through it, and let's compare this form to what comes after it, and let's see if it cuts much of the audio out. So I'm going to rewind here and play through it again. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to apply equalization. Okay, so you can see here, this is in the green. This is a green audio point that I've got here. And you can see that the filter curve, or the low pass filter, or the high pass filter rather, has cut the audio by this much. Here's the old original waveform, which again, you see what's coming into the equalizer as well as what's coming out of the equalizer. So you can see what the audio looked like before it was EQ'd and what it looks like after it was EQ'd. And so I'm going to press play again and kind of keep your eye on this area right here, and you can see the difference between the before and after. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to apply equalization to. And it's not, so it doesn't completely eliminate it, but it does attenuate it. It gets it down to a point where it's a little bit more manageable. And again, you can make this steeper. You can adjust the frequency that you want in this little window here. You can adjust the bandwidth, which is the Q, and I'm going to show you that on a different thing here in just a minute. But you have the ability to make those changes. You can also turn this point off and on right here. If I turn it off, it flattens everything out again. And then if I turn it on, this is what it does. So let's turn it off. Let's play it again. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to, now I'm going to turn it on, equalization to. And it's not going to be a long recording. In fact, I think I'm going to stop right here. So if you're wearing headphones or earbuds, you heard a difference. You heard a change. It's less bassy with that effect turned on. So that's one thing that's good about this. I'm really enjoying this this parametric EQ. Parametric EQ simply means this, that you can see what's going on with it and that you can add different points to it. You can add up to 10 different points on this line just by simply clicking it and adding a point. And we're going to do that here in just a second. But first, what I want to show you is up here, we've got in and out. This is in and out volume. This is in and out decibel level overall of the audio. So if I'm playing this, let me rewind it here. If I'm playing this and I adjust the audio, I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to click this once, and then I'm going to use the scroll wheel on my mouse, and I'm going to up and down the audio here, and you'll see what happens, and I'll explain it to you after I'm done. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to apply equalization to. And it's not going to be a long recording. Okay, so what I did right there is I increased the output of the equalizer by 7 dB. That was where I increased it. And you can see that difference is in this line here. The original is in this gray area, and the signal that I boosted is in this line here. So you can see that I have increased that by 7 dB. Yay. And if I bring it back down again, I can simply double click it to bring it back down. I can also do the same thing with the input level. So again, I'm going to rewind it here. Let's play. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to apply equalization to. And it's not going to be a long record. So this brings up an important point that's good to know. A lot of effects have what's called a dry signal and a wet signal. The dry signal is the audio signal coming into whatever the effect is before the effect does its thing to the audio. And then the signal leaving the effect is called a wet signal. Sometimes it's good to mix those two together a little bit to bring in some of the dry mix back into the wet mix once the effect has been applied. Probably not so much here with a graphic EQ, although, there could be times when it's good to do that. It works better with a noise gate. So I'm on the prowl for a good noise gate here that works in Audacity. I've got good noise gates, but a lot of them I think are a little bit too powerful. And sometimes Audacity will crash when I'm using one of those plugins. So I'm on the hunt for something else, maybe from Muse or wherever, that will illustrate that. It's sometimes good on a noise gate to have a dry mix because it helps with breath control. So this is basically what this is. You've got a dry mix here, and you've got a wet mix here, and you can see the difference between the two. So let's come back up here to our audio, and let's reset this. And then let's add some of our own points, shall we? I'm going to add a point here. I'm just going to double click this. It comes up as a bell curve. That means that it looks like a bell if I'm increasing it or decreasing it. But I don't really want a bell curve. I want to manually put a low cut on this like we had before, but I wanted to do it manually this time. And if I slide this around, you can see the frequency is changing. I want this to be around, well, let's call it right in here around 85 or so. It doesn't have to be exact. I don't want 12 dB per octave. I want to go a little steeper. And let's go 36 dB per octave. That just gives us a steeper range or a steeper drop off. It's more of a hard stop for those low frequencies. So let's leave that one right there. And then let's come over here and let's add another one. And this one we're going to go ahead and leave as a bell curve. I'm going to play through, excuse me, I'm going to play through this again, and I'm going to adjust this bell curve, and I want you to listen and look at the visual part of this so that you can see what the frequencies are doing as I move this around and expand it. So let's rewind this, push play. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to apply equalization to. And it's not going to be a long recording. In fact, I think I'm going to stop right here. So if you're listening with headphones or earbuds, you heard the bass frequencies kind of go up a little bit. This is extreme. I would never add anything, at a 6 to 9 dB like this. I'm going to, however, change the bandwidth on this. Let's try a 2, and that gives us a little bit steeper bell curve. And now I'm going to play again. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to apply equalization to. And it's not going to be a long recording. In fact, I think I'm going to stop right here. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to apply equalization to. And it's not going to be a long recording. In fact, I think I'm going to stop right here. So by increasing that frequency, I made the audio sound a little bit richer. I brought some of the bass tones up, and I made it sound a little bit richer, a little bit more dynamic on the low end there. And I like that. I like that a lot. Now, something else that I want to do is for clarity, I want to bring up this low end a little bit. So I'm going to just double click over here, put a point on it. And again, I don't want a bell curve. I want a high shelf. And this time, as I'm playing it, I'm going to bring up this high end just a little bit so that you can hear the difference. So this is some audio that I'm recording just so that we can have something to apply equalization to. And it's not going to be a long recording. In fact, I think I'm going to stop right here. And I'll stop right there too. So my whole point in this is just to show you that equalization, especially in this kind of an environment with real time, it's got advantages because it doesn't destructively affect your waveform. If I decide not to have this on here, I can take it off at any time and my waveform is untouched. Again, it only affects the waveform when I export the audio, and it never affects the waveform or the audio within the project itself. It's always the exported audio. So it's good to know. If you haven't messed around with a parametric EQ or a real-time EQ, I encourage you to do that. Again, this one's free. You can go get it and you can play around with it on your own time and in your own way and with your own voice and see if it enhances what you want. If it makes, in your opinion, your voice sound better, then you can experiment with that. You can also, once you get it to where you want it, you can save it as a preset. So if I save this as my preset, and I tell it, okay, I created my preset, now I'm running my preset. And so if I come here, there's Mike's mic that I did earlier, and here's my preset. So my presets are right here. Let's see if they're over here as well. Nope, the user presets don't appear over here, but the factory presets are all here. But the user presets, I guess you have to probably save them over here on this button, which I prefer this one. I don't know why. I just do. So that's just a quick look at a parametric EQ in real time. There's so many advantages of this over a destructive EQ. I encourage you either to use this one or to find one that you like and just play around with it and, kind of get a view or get an idea of what works for you in this environment. Because, man, I'll tell you, real time, Audacity's got real-time effects now, and I would really encourage you to take advantage of those. So, hey, I hope that you benefited from this video. I'm not sure how long I've gone here, probably longer than I intended to, but I hope it was beneficial to you. Get in there and EQ some good audio. Make it sound the way you want it to sound. Make sure you don't overprocess it, because if you overprocess it, guess what? It's going to sound overprocessed. But if you do real time, not a biggie, because you can go back and change it. So, hey, I'll let you go. And until next time, y'all take care.